You ever meet someone your age who feels older? Not in a they know more trivia way, but in a sighs deeply at loud music way. They get tired early. They prefer quiet cafes over parties. They talk about peace like it's a luxury item. And sometimes, if we're being honest, that person is you. You look around and think, why do I feel like I've already lived 3 lifetimes? It's not always sadness. It's not necessarily trauma. And it's definitely not just being mature. There's a psychology behind why some people feel older than their age, and it's quieter, more layered, and more human than most people realize. By the end of this, you might recognize parts of yourself you never had language for. Let's start with a familiar scene. You're in a group chat, everyone's joking, sending memes, talking about plans that involve staying out late, and you're there scrolling slowly, feeling detached, not annoyed, not superior, just oddly done. Like you've already moved past this phase, even though everyone else is still inside it. This is common among people who developed early emotional self-sufficiency. Usually they learned, very young, that relying on others wasn't guaranteed. Maybe they were the responsible one. The child who noticed tension before anyone said a word. The teenager who handled things quietly instead of acting out. When you grow up reading rooms instead of being protected inside them, your inner world ages faster than your body. You don't feel old because you're tired of life. You feel old because you've been paying attention for a long time. And attention ages you. Then there's another type. This one surprises people. Imagine someone who's calm during chaos. When things go wrong, they don't panic. They slow down. They speak carefully. They don't rush decisions. Others might say, wow, you're so wise for your age. But what they don't see is that this calm didn't come from confidence. It came from overexposure. These are people who learned early that emotional explosions cost too much. So they train themselves, consciously or not, to stay composed, to manage emotions instead of expressing them. Over time, this creates an inner sense of being ahead of others emotionally. While people around them are still discovering their impulses, this person already knows the consequences. And that knowledge creates distance. You start feeling older because you've already run the mental simulations everyone else is still experimenting with. Now let's talk about the quiet rebel. This one's subtle. Picture someone who opts out. They don't chase trends. They don't obsess over milestones. They don't feel the rush to keep up. Not because they're lazy or disconnected, but because they see the game too clearly. Psychologically, these people often have a strong internal value system. They're not easily impressed by surface-level rewards. Status, noise, hype, it doesn't land the same. So while others are sprinting toward visible success, this person is asking slower questions. Is this worth my energy? Does this actually matter to me? That questioning can make you feel older, because it separates you from the collective rhythm. You're not moving at the same pace. You're moving inward. And inward movement often feels like age, even when it's really depth. Then there's a more bittersweet profile. The person who feels old because they're already grieving things they haven't lost yet. They notice time passing. They feel nostalgia early. They sense the fragility of moments while they're still happening. This often shows up in people with high emotional sensitivity. Their nervous systems are tuned finely. They don't just experience events, they absorb them, which means joy hits deeper, but so does impermanence. They don't rush through moments because part of them is already aware they won't last. That awareness can create a quiet heaviness, not depression, more like emotional gravity. You feel older because you're carrying awareness. Most people postpone until later in life. But here's the twist. Feeling older than your age isn't always about having lived too much. Sometimes it's about having lived inwardly. You've spent more time thinking, reflecting, noticing patterns. You've been in conversations with yourself that others haven't started yet. And that can create a strange loneliness. Because when you're emotionally or psychologically ahead, there aren't always peers to meet you there. You start craving slower conversations, deeper connections, less stimulation, more meaning. So you withdraw, not because you're antisocial, but because shallow interactions feel exhausting. Your energy becomes selective. And selectivity in a youth-obsessed culture gets mislabeled as being old. But there's an important thing to say here. Feeling older than your age is not a flaw. It's also not a badge of superiority. It's a signal, a sign of how your mind adapted to your environment. Some people learned by doing, others learned by observing. Some learned by surviving quietly. The danger isn't feeling old. The danger is mistaking emotional gravity for emotional finality, thinking this is just who I am now. I'm done. When in reality, you may just need spaces and people that match your pace, because the same people who feel old at 25 often feel strangely young again later, when they find meaning, when they feel understood, when they stop confusing depth with depletion. So here's the reflection. Which version felt familiar? The early observer? The calm under pressure? The quiet opt-out? The sensitive griever of moments? Maybe it's not just one. Maybe it's layers, and maybe feeling older. Then your age isn't about time at all, but about how closely you've been listening to life. If this resonated, sit with it for a moment. And if you want to explore more of these quiet psychological patterns, the ones people rarely talk about, you know where to find this channel.